Information and strategy, key to proper communication, especially in governance. Information and strategy. Since the Bola Tinubu administration came into power, we've been inundated with information. But when it comes to strategy, the communication seems few and far between. And for many Nigerians, information about strategy is most important in these trying times. Hello and welcome to Political Paradigm on Channels Television. I'm Kayla Magwa. The right to rebuttal and clarification is sacrosanct on this program, and my guest will be doing just that. He's a special advisor to President Bola Tinubu on information and strategy, Mr. Adebayo Onanuga, a well-known name in Nigeria's media space, held captive by State Security Service in Lagos during the Abacha regime. 66-year-old Mr. Onanuga is a Nigerian journalist, co-founder of the news magazine. He was appointed managing director of the News Agency of Nigeria by President Muhammadu Buhari in May of 2016. And before that, he was the CEO and editor-in-chief of PM News. And who could forget his time at the African Concord? He's an alumnus of the University of Lagos with a degree in mass communication. Mr. Onanuga, welcome to Political Paradigm.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure being here.
Let's talk a bit about the climes that we're in right now. One topic that's been on the forefront, apart from the economy and security, of course, is the unity of Nigerians. And I remember listening to you, before President Tinubu came into power, about the plans that this government has to unify the people. What moves have been made so far, and has there been any result in that unifying that you talked so much about?
Well, the president has done a lot. Trying to shake hands across the Niger, everywhere, trying to bring people together, not just in his party, but even across party lines. You've seen some of the moves he made to resolve problems in even the People's Democratic Party, when there were problems between former Governor Wike, who is now FCT minister, and his minister, and is the new governor of Rivers. He tried to wade in to settle their quarrel. Similarly, played the same role even in Kano State, in Plateau, trying to play that father figure, not just leader of the APC, but the leader of the entire country. So he's been doing things like that. He has said it himself that he doesn't want to be seen as just APC leader, but as a father of the entire nation. And I think he has been doing that. He's very much concerned about whatever is happening in any part of our country and whatever he could do to make sure that we have some level of sanity. He's been doing that very well.
Let's talk a bit about restructuring, which was another thing that you talked about quite a bit. And of course, echoing, the ideals of your principle. How much progress has been made in this restructuring conversation, and in what areas?
Well, restructuring means many things
to many people.
To many people. President Tinubu, when he was governor of Lagos, he was one of the people actually championing the idea of restructuring. And he achieved a lot in that way, at least on fiscal, restructuring along fiscal lines, things that he believes that the federal government has no business doing and that it rather should belong to the states. Like, for instance, the VAT. The Lagos state on its own challenged the authority of government to solely to collect tax on whatever things are sold or services rendered in the state. And Lagos was able to impose its own kind of sales tax, even though the federal government collects VAT, but Lagos was able to impose its own sales tax. I think it challenged the authority of the federal government in approving, let's say, CFO for land in Lagos. He tried to, at least he went to the court, he challenged it and said, oh, the land belongs to the state. The federal government has no land in Lagos State, except the land given to federal government. And it will only be for a short time or whatever, maybe at a lease for some years and things like that. And he tried to assert through the court the authority of the government of Lagos to approve CFO for anyone who wants to build, even on so-called federal land. So he has achieved a lot in that area. He believes that this country should be restructured. And in recent time, I think last week, when he met the governors, he again showed the kind of person he is, his political belief that since our central police is not working, or doesn't appear to be working effectively to make sure that every Nigerian is able to sleep with his two eyes closed, he mooted the idea that maybe now we should have state police, which we've been talking about for some time in our country, but this time around, he really wants us to make sure that it is realized now in view of the serious security situation we are facing across our country. So he believes in restructuring. That's one kind of restructuring if it's achieved. I think he has thrown it back to the National Economic Council for governors to deliberate on it further. And as we are talking, even the National Assembly is talking about state police. They are making some moves there to review the Constitution and to make sure that the states also have the right to set up state police. They are working at the modalities, what should be in the law, how will the federal police relate with the state police, and so on. In addition to that, of course, there are moves to set up what they call the park. Some people call them park rangers or forest rangers, and so on. And I think yesterday this again came up in the discussion of the National Economic Council. They're also talking about having forest rangers. It's a kind of police. It's a kind of police. So it's part of all this restructuring that we are talking about.
Another area that people have asked for restructuring, at least some kind of constitution amendment on, is local government autonomy, specifically when it comes to funding. The idea that local governments and state governments share a joint account in many ways has handicapped the local authorities across this country. Now, while the advocacy on it keeps going round and round, a lot of people believe that the president should wade in on the concept of local government autonomy. Is that something? Is that some kind of restructuring as well?
It's part of restructuring. Don't forget that the President Buhari, during his time, he tried to wade in to make the states to respect the authority of the local councils. Well, according to the Constitution, the councils are under the jurisdiction of the state assembly. The state assembly makes laws for them and things like that, controls them. The state assembly can meet and say they want to remove a local council chairman and things like that. But in the last dispensation, there was actually a move by the National Assembly, a part of the amendment to the Constitution, asking this, because, to amend the Constitution, apart from getting 2/3 majority in the National Assembly,
you need 24.
You have to get 2/3 in the states, 36, so 24 of them. But I think the move did not succeed.
They keep falling short by one.
Yeah. So I think I think the ball is in the court of National Assembly to restart the process again and make a move so that the states can really realize the need to give our councils autonomy. All the money they made for them, so the money can get to them. They can also help in the security of all parts of their country, because they are there. There are many of 774 local councils. So it is very important.
Can we categorically say that President Bola Tinubu is in support of local government autonomy, especially financial? Well,
I cannot speak for him now because the issue has not come up in his utterances or whatever he believes in. But I can tell you that he's a man who believes in federalism, and I believe that when the time is right, if there is need to do it, he will support it.
Let's talk a bit about the field that you have been very, very well known in. I mean, I try to imagine what it must have been like to be a journalist at the time when we had military regime in this country. I was just a little girl. But I try to imagine what it was like. You were even arrested at some point in Lagos, and you had to leave the country and then come back afterwards.
Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about the freedom of expression. What it was like then and what we have now, and calls from several quarters to check that freedom of expression. As many people have said, it is going out of hand. What's your take on that?
Well, I don't agree with that, your conclusion that freedom is going out of hand. No. journalism, or let's say the press, the fourth essence of the realm, we've always enjoyed a large measure of freedom in our country, even under military rule. Of course, the military will not give you freedom. You have to hijack it yourself. You don't have to be afraid that, if you write this kind of story, that somebody will come after you. As we used to say in that time, we said, let's test the waters. Let's see how far we can go. And then we test the waters if anybody came after us. And then we test the waters another time, and then they send the goons after us. Say, maybe that's a dangerous area, don't go there, and things like that. But I want to just say that to journalists that freedom is available. Our Constitution guarantees it. In fact, the Constitution even gives us a task to hold all our institutions accountable. I think Section 34 or so of the Constitution says so. So, in fact, we are the only profession in this country that was mentioned in the Constitution. The media, the press, we shall do so and so in our Constitution. So the freedom is there. It's for us now to use it, and to use it very responsibly. All this who and cry about freedom or excessive freedom, or what some people call licentiousness, is because some people have been misusing this freedom. They've been abusing the freedom. And as I was talking about responsible press freedom, there are things that you can say, don't write this on, maybe because it will affect national security, or don't do this, don't descend into abusing people, or things like that. Keep to the facts. Let facts speak for you, rather than you just doing things excessively. I would say we enjoy freedom a lot in the media, and as of today, nobody is taking away the freedom. What people are talking about is what you find in social media, which is a new form of media that is no more less than 20 years old or so, but less than 15 years, and people notice certain excesses on that platform. And that's why people are saying we must find a way of regulating whatever goes on in the social media. Because today, everybody is a journalist. Everybody with a phone. We just take his phone and he's putting something there, and he's sending it into the social cyberspace, and sometimes they send incorrect information. All this idea of misinformation, misleading things people write, they emanate mostly from the social media. And people are concerned that it has to be regulated. Nobody is saying we should abolish freedom, but they are saying let's have some rules. Just like the traditional media have their own rules. There are certain things you cannot do under traditional media. But social media, as of today, is largely unregulated. There are rules, of course. There are some rules, but nobody is really trying to enforce those rules. Don't forget we have what we call the cyber law, something made some years ago by the National Assembly. It's there. If you write something or circulate something that is false, imprisonment, 7 years or something like that, the law is there.
So why don't we just stick to the law? I think that's one of the criticisms against the chief of staff of the president, because he has been speaking up about this recently. I mean, I'm speaking about Mr. Gbajabiamila. They say there's a law already.
There's a law.
Why do you want more?
Maybe you should ask the police why they're not doing their duty. The law is there. We have so many laws in our country. Many of them end up not being enforced. Even at times people forget that the laws really exist. I think that law was signed by President Jonathan before he left the office. He signed that law. It's there. I think it's cyber law. Something I've forgotten the title of the law, but it's there. It guides the activities of people in the social media, let me say in the cyberspace. Anybody using a computer and things like that, the law is there to guide it. So if there at times we've seen people really enforcing the law. I remember a billionaire, Mr. Is it Mekana or something? He's taken some people to court over infringement of his right in the social media. And sometimes they ended up not begging him to forgive them, because they knew that they committed some transgressions. I think Zemeka he's used that law several times.
So maybe we should educate people more on that law. I've seen Mr. Fashola use that law as well.
The law is there. The law is there. It's now left for our law enforcers, the police especially. In fact, I believe that the police should have a special desk for cyber crimes, just like the EFCC has it. They should have a special desk that will monitor what goes on in the social media space so that they don't infringe on our laws. They don't infringe on other people's rights and things like that. The law is there. The law is there. I
think one of the biggest fears whenever that conversation comes up is, oh, who draws the line? What is hate speech? Is it speech that you don't like, that is true? Or falsehood? Or is it when I incite violence? You know, so the idea of where the line is drawn, because someone can label if I did something wrong and someone called me, if I stole and someone called me a thief, you know, I would say, oh, that's hate speech against me. But what if I actually stole? You know, so those are the lines that many people on social media don't quite understand how that line is supposed to be drawn.
And you cannot just make an allegation and say somebody has stolen without getting your facts right. If somebody has stolen, it may just be an accusation. You cannot just be definite about it. So in writing your story, you have to make sure it's just an allegation. Certify this is an allegation. Somebody is making an allegation.
That's for traditional media, isn't it? But for regular people on social
media. It should be
media.
for all media. You have to be, that's why I'm saying people should be very, very cautious, very restrained in what they write. You cannot see, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, I went to a retreat where I mentioned a story published by a news platform about a former commissioner who was being accused of stealing some money. And I read the story. There was no indication in that story that the commissioner was asked to state his own side of the story. And I was telling the media, I said, look, you should have asked the commissioner to respond instead of going to town with a one-sided story, an allegation by a state assembly against a former commissioner who was not around to state his own side. And people who read it may have gone ahead with that impression that the commissioner stole money. Whereas it was an allegation. And the commissioner would have responded and said, look, this is what happened.
What if he refused to respond?
There was nothing. There was nothing.
What if he refused to respond? Because many people play that trick.
I'm sure most people...
Thinking, oh, they can't quote that story if I don't see my side.
When their reputation is at stake, when you are making some grave allegation against them, they will respond. They will like to state their own case.
Well, for many mediums I read, I see them say, oh, we reached out to him for his response to this, and he didn't respond. We see that in documentaries these days, because we can't keep stifling stories because the other side doesn't want to speak.
It's always better. Wait for the other side. Because the other side, I always tell people, you don't have a unilateral side of a story. There will always be several dimensions to it. Like, for instance, if somebody accuses me of maybe somebody comes across a voucher that I spent 1 million naira for a meal at Transcorp. It's a voucher. It doesn't tell the story. It doesn't say how many people that I actually gave the meal to. Maybe there were about 50,000 people or 100,000 people. And by the time you divide your 1 million with 100,000, maybe it's about just 10,000 naira per head. But somebody can go to town and say, oh, Mr. Onanuga was found to have spent 1 million naira on a meal in Transcorp. That's why I said, even when you get documents, it doesn't tell all the story. You need to hear from people concerned.
Let's go into politics. Congratulations, the APC has a candidate for the Edo elections. Help us understand exactly what happened, everything that happened, because many people didn't quite understand it. Although we saw Mr. Felix Morka explaining, no, Mr. Hopo's Odima was not removed. He just had another engagement and someone else had to be there. But talk us through exactly what happened that led to the emergence of this senator as the candidate in the Edo elections.
First primary, don't forget that I think about 21 or 20 candidates that went to the election, there were suspicions that the man who is the leader of the party in the state, I mean the de facto leader, is not the party chairman, that's Senator Adams Oshomole, that he had a preferred candidate. So many of the candidates went to that election believing that the election will be rigged in favor of Senator Shomole's candidate. I know even in the run-up some few days or on the day of the election, I think about 3 of them withdrew, that they didn't want to be part of it. So the election went on, and people voted. It was a direct primary. All the members of the party in the state were asked to make their choice known. And I think the collation of that result was going on. And the rep member, Idausa, that people felt was Oshomole's preferred candidate, according to the reports we read, was that he was losing out. And then some thugs now went to the coalition center, disrupted the coalition, and so on. And I don't know, maybe probably they gave Senator Uzodimma a wrong result, and he announced it. But I think when the party already has channels of seeking redress, I think the people concerned petitioned the party. They made the party to be aware that the result was not the one announced by Uzodimma. And the National Working Committee had to now look at the facts of the case and declare the entire election done on Saturday last week as inconclusive. So they went back, and the result is what we have today.
So what do you think his chances are? Edo State is a PDP state. We're seeing a lot of drama in all the parties, really.
Well, Edo State is a peculiar state. I would say that the man who emerged in APC today is from the central senatorial district of the state, Edo Central. And since 1999, I think the last person who ever became governor was Ambrose Ali in 1979-83. Since 1999, nobody from that zone has ever emerged as governor of Edo State. What the PDP has done is to, again, nominate a candidate. They have 2 candidates now. Philip Shaibu, who is from Eshomole's area, is also claiming to be the candidate. And Igodalo, who is from Obaseki's area in Edo, I think it's Edo, either north or south, is also, where Obaseki comes from. That's where Igodalo also comes from. So that's the situation we have today in that state. I think the Labour will announce their candidate either today or tomorrow. So we know it's going to be a 3-party kind of race.
What do you think his chances are? I mean, the APC candidate. Is he the person who can take power away from a state that Mr. Obaseki has fashioned out to be a PDP state? Well, despite the drama in the PDP.
There have been all kinds of in and out people living. Obaseki was originally APC. The man who was there before him was APC. And then you have a situation whereby people believe that Obaseki has not done very well. And so it will not be an easy ride for the PDP in that state. And then over the years, since Obaseki used the PDP platform, there have been some kind of internal problems. Some people have left PDP, they cannot work with Obaseki. And even this election that they had yesterday, there will still be some reactions. Because some people also believe that Godalo is Obaseki's preferred candidate, and some members of the party they don't like that, and they want to either change camps. They can join APC or join Labour or whatever party they want to join.
Let's talk a bit about a particular court case. So we saw Justice Emeka Nwite of the Federal High Court discharging Omoyele Sowore and Olawale Bakare of alleged treasonable felony that was preferred against them by the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi. How does the presidency respond to this?
The president doesn't interfere in things like that. That's a matter for the judiciary. I think the Attorney General, who is the chief law officer of the country, he has reviewed the case and probably found that there's no point in going ahead with the case. That's why he said he should withdraw it. So the presidency has no reaction. This matter is strictly legal matter, which has been resolved, at least to the benefit of Mr. Sowore.
Mr. Sowore says he's going to sue.
Well, he has the right. Nobody can stop him. He has the right to, if he feels that he has been injured or maltreated one way or the other, I think he has the right to seek some compensation. It is his right.
Earlier, you talked about Rivers State and, of course, the president's intervention in the FCT minister and the state governor's impasse. But it still feels like there's still tension, at least from the stories that we hear. We keep hearing about people loyal to this side, people loyal to Fubara, people loyal to Wike, and then we see decisions being made as a result of these loyalties. How do you think the president's intervention has worked so far? Has it actually brought peace to both parties in the state? Or is there more? Are there more interventions that need to be done?
I think so far it was right for the president to have intervened. Otherwise, Rivers was almost going to violence, slipping into violence, if that decisive intervention had not been done. Some people were on the Fubara side, some were on Wike's side, and so on, and the tension was there at that time. And by wading into the political conflict, at least the tension came down. There are some people in Rivers who want the tension, the conflict between Wike and Fubara to go on. And of course, you understand why they want it to go on. And there are some people who genuinely want peace to prevail. Rivers State is a very important state in Nigeria in terms of the contribution to the economy of this country. And there is no president will allow the state to descend to chaos. That's principally why the president even intervened. That there should be no problem in this state. Can imagine if there is no economic activity can go on rivers, oil drilling and all kinds of things, the country, every part of Nigeria will feel it. So that's why the president ensured that there is peace. And I think for now, there is peace. Or if you say semblance of peace, but there's no violence. And was it last week? Governor Fubara was in Abuja here, and you saw him. Television showed him greeting Minister Wike. I
mean, that clip has been subject to a lot of interpretations. I have mine. It felt like he had walked up to the vice president in that clip and asked for where Wike was. And then the vice president said, "Oh, look at him over there." Okay. And he went back to greet him. Some other people have interpreted, that's my interpretation. Some other people have interpreted that clip to be he walked past Governor Minister Wike
was backing,
to the vice president. The vice president says, "No, look, go greet your principal."
Wike was backing. Somebody sitting here backing this kind of space was passing by. They probably didn't see who was sitting down there. So until he got to VP Shetima, who said, "No, Wike is over there." And he went back to say hello to him.
And then another thing that has been interpreted in many ways has been the way the greeting was. It did feel a little cold, didn't it? When, Mr. Fubara said hello, bowed, and Mr. Wike just shook his hand, and that was it. Most people expected it. If there's peace between these two parties, it's a bit more friendly, a hug or something.
That's your interpretation. At least what is important is that Fubara came back to greet him. And I think that gesture is more important than anything else.
So let's talk a little bit about the economy, which is the biggest communication right now on every platform, the standard of living. A rapid decline in the quality of life of the Nigerian. And many people say there's restiveness.
I'm not showing it.
I'm not showing it. We thank God we don't look like what we're going through. However, it is a situation everyone, myself included, is dealing with. People are talking about how the country is a little restive right now. But let's go back to the beginning. The first issue people have is we are in support of the removal of fuel subsidy. Everyone understood the policies. They had to be done. At least the majority, vast majority. In fact, many people campaigned on that platform. We're going to do this. We have to grow our economy. We can't just keep throwing money away in the name of subsidy. Now, What's happened afterwards is that many Nigerians believe there were supposed to be buffers in place. It's one thing when you tell me, oh, look, if you go to LA, you have to buy fuel for about $4.50. That's a lot more than what we're spending on fuel here per liter. However, they have the alternative of public transportation. They have other alternatives, which we don't have here. So when you put the pressure on the Nigerian, his lifestyle will totally decline. What do you make of that assertion? That the buffers that were necessary, we understand the story. President Tinubu inherited a government where subsidy was not put in that budget for the year. We understand that. However, the buffers that are needed are not in place for it to be fully implemented, according to many Nigerians. What do you make of that assertion?
Well, there are so many issues embedded in this subsidy matter. When President Tinubu removed it from on day one, it was because he could see the dangers ahead. By May 29, when Tinubu was sworn in, the budget of that year already showed, or as you said, subsidy was no longer
in their budget.
President Buhari, by the law of Petroleum Industry Act, the subsidy was to go end of June 2023. So what Tinubu did was just to accelerate it, because as at that time, if Nigerians could just remember what happened at that time, we were already facing fuel scarcity by May, in fact, even before May, because NNPC was at choking point, because they were the only people importing fuel. And government was owing them at the stage about 4 trillion naira. And if you cast your mind toward that budget, 2023 budget, the budget said that out of our revenue, we are going to spend 97% of the budget to service debt. 97% to service debt. What is left? Would that be enough for us to pay to service the current expenditure or even to do capital project? So Nigeria as at May 29, 2023 was broke. So if that subsidy had been allowed to be there for another 1 month, or longer than even till the end of June, as President Buhari wanted it to be, maybe there would be no fuel again in the country. Everybody will start walking on the road and so on to the office and blah, blah, blah. So the president had to do something very decisively to remove it. Don't also forget that that subsidy you're talking about was not being enjoyed solely by Nigerians. Our neighbors were beneficiaries. Smugglers were beneficiaries of that budget, of that subsidy. Today, up to today now, if we check, if we do comparative analysis of fuel cost around us, today, Nigeria still has the cheapest fuel per liter. The cheapest fuel per liter. So, but the subsidy was becoming a problem, and our battles on our economy becoming something very hard for the government to even fund, and NNPC was shocking, and NNPC needed to be saved because the other companies in the oil business, they were not interested because it was not profitable for them. Nigerians should even wonder now. Dangote refinery has started work. It's producing diesel, producing the aviation fuel. It's not producing PMS yet. I don't have the information why it is not producing PMS. At the beginning, it says it needed 6 million liters of barrels of crude. They gave him 6 million barrels, but now it's not producing PMS for Nigeria. People should wonder. It could be that the refineries feel that the price we are selling fuel is not appropriate. Because don't forget, they are selling fuel to Dangote in dollars. And now here in Nigeria, our people are paying about less than 700 naira on a liter of fuel. Whereas across West Africa and sub-region, even our immediate neighbors, they are selling fuel at over 2,000 naira. So there are implications. The president knew that there would be implications in removing the subsidy. And that's what he's been trying to make sure that it reduces the strains, the financial strains on our people. One of them is the idea of bringing in CNG buses, compressed natural gas, buses that will be powered not by petrol, but by gas. That process is on. I'm sure before the first anniversary of this administration, we are going to have a flood of those vehicles in our country. They are bringing them. And not just buses, they are bringing thousands of tricycles, also powered by CNG. That's one way, so that people can then, of course, they are doing conversion centers. You have people who have petrol power cars, can take their vehicles there and convert it to CNG. They're also doing CNG refueling centers and so on. So all these things are going on. Even now in Nigeria, there are already vehicles that are powered by CNG. So that's one way of reducing the cost of traveling, of moving around, by using CNG-powered either buses or cars or things like that. The trains are there. A lot of people now, they want to travel from Lagos to Ibadan. Instead of going on the road, they go by train. So government is investing in that area too, so that people can, you don't need to waste, I go to the UK, and I can tell you that I don't even drive a car in UK. I go by public transport. Public train, the train, what they call their train service or buses or whatever, and it's cheaper for people to move around. The cost of fuel you have seen is very, very high. We are still enjoying some measure of subsidy in Nigeria today because NNPC is selling fuel to us far, far cheaper than what the fuel is going for near us in Benin Republic, in Burkina Faso, in Chad, all these countries around us. In Niger, Nigeria's oil is still the cheapest.
That may be true, but like I said earlier, the standard of living of the Nigerian is really low. I understand, and many Nigerians understand this fact. We're not all unreasonable. However, there hasn't been some kind of increase in my income.
Well, that's on.
How do I, because you see, the removal of fuel subsidy, apart from the fact that the buffers that are necessary for me to cushion this impact have not been in place, they're still coming. You said before the first anniversary, before May the 29th, we're hoping that we'll see the CNG, but that's in the area of transportation. There are many other ripple effects of the removal of fuel subsidy that has led to, not just fuel subsidy, even of the floating of the Naira. All of these things have led to an exponential increase in the cost of everything. I'm going to get to some of the things that we've heard government officials talk about, the fact that many of these increases are arbitrary. They're not a result of market forces. Yeah. I'm going to get to that topic in a bit. However, for the ones that have no choice but to increase their prices because they are dealing with the dollar, because they are dealing with increased expenses, how do we ensure that Nigerians are able to navigate this when it comes to food items, for instance? I want to be able to look at the rice seller and tell him you're arbitrarily raising prices. But he'll be telling me how he has to transport it and how most of his cost is going into fuel. He will be able to tell me that.
No, what has happened is that after the first subsidy was ended, some people just sat down and they started just increasing prices. Unfortunately, at the time the subsidy was removed, Nigeria did not have in place a price control mechanism. Everybody was just increasing prices. People say, oh, fuel price has gone up. Or someone will say, since the other policy also came, the harmonization of exchange, what you call the foreign exchange market, people just using the two factors, the two reform policy to increase prices. Some of them, of course, it has been proven that they are arbitrarily done. I can tell you the government is making efforts, a lot of efforts. For instance, the cost of pharmaceuticals. Government has met pharmaceutical companies in Nigeria trying to see what they can do to make sure that their drugs are affordable and to make them to also produce those drugs that people say this company, GSK, that they were producing. So that process is on. And I think very soon, the president will issue an executive order that we really outline what are the things that should be done in terms of reducing excise duties or waiving excise duties on pharmaceutical products or even custom duties on pharmaceutical products, including their raw materials. So all those things are on to deal with pharmaceuticals because it's important that we all stay healthy. As for food, government is making efforts. Apart from the decision to release 42,000 metric tons of grains into the market, which will be given free to Nigerians, government is also in talks with rice millers to produce 60,000 metric tons of rice, which also will be distributed to Nigerians. I think that's not for free. I think people just pay some token amount of money to have those products. So that one is on. Apart from that, what government actually believes in is that if you go into production, this issue of food not being cheap will die down. So government is investing in production. And that's why government invited the governors. The president met the governors 2 weeks ago. He said, look, this issue we are talking about in Nigeria, either removal of subsidy or the harmonization of exchange rates, is not only a federal government problem. The states, as subnationals, should get involved. Food. Why are the states not getting involved in agriculture, for instance? Why are they not getting involved in agriculture? If they get involved in agriculture, the cost of food will go down. It will become a very insignificant percentage of our income. But the states everybody is starting aloof that, for everything, federal. But I think the states have gotten the message. And if you follow the news, in recent times, you see the efforts some of them are making. Not just providing food, at least doing some big palliatives for their people. Lagos State government just announced, I think a day ago, about 10 policies that will give people living in that state some kind of relief. Governor Soludo just last week gave 800 tractors free of charge to farmers to encourage them. Ogun State spending 5 billion to give money to people, to students, to pensioners, all manners of things, just to give them some succor, so that at least the effect of those policies will not, at least they get some relief from the policies that have been executed. Those policies, as government has said repeatedly, they are in the best interest of Nigeria. The harmonization of exchange, for instance, some people are making money out of it, a lot of money for doing nothing. When the exchange was about 450 naira or something, and what they call the parallel market, which I think is an illegal market, was selling at about 750, 800 naira. Imagine the gap. So some people are collecting money officially and then round tripping or doing what they call arbitrage, selling off in the black market and making huge profit for doing nothing, except that they are close to the corridors of power. So that was on. But that is no more.
Or friends with banks.
Or maybe they know Godwin Emefiele and we're just collecting money all over the place.
Godwin Emefiele?
Yeah. So, but that is no more there. That's what government has been struggling.
Are you saying that is what he was doing when he was in office as CBN governor? Are you accusing Mr. Emefiele of engaging in this practice of, selling dollars to BDCs and, making a profit off of it?
The manufacturers are always complaining they are not getting the dollars, but some people are getting it where they were not getting it. Many manufacturers are going to the parallel market to buy the forex they need to import raw materials. So that was unfortunate. But what the President Tinubu is trying to do is to stop all those sad practices, to have a unified exchange rate. So you go there, you buy your money according to the prevailing market price. So that's what is on. And of recent there are some attempts to sabotage all the efforts. The crypto platforms like Binance and other crypto platforms, people just sit down with their phones, they just go there, they set some exchange rate for the naira. And I think government again, some few days ago, tried to shut down all the websites of those crypto platforms.
You're saying the owners were doing this, the owners of those platforms?
No, they are Nigerians. Some of them out of mischief. Some of them because they don't love their country, so they go there, they just set some values which are not real for our national currency. The naira is not what is happening now. What they get in the parallel market, or even what the CBN is selling now. What CBN has done is just to make sure that it matches the crazy rate we are getting in the parallel market. But I'm sure by the time some sanity is restored now, you find the rate of the naira appreciating, and it's already appreciating with the measures taken some in the last 2-3 days. And we expect that if that appreciation goes on, perhaps we can all dream to have the naira at below 100,000 naira, below 1,000 naira to $1, instead of the rate we have now.
I mean, you did mention the 29th of May 29th. You put it as a cutoff mark, really, because that's what many Nigerians, and you can't really blame them. They've been hearing things are going to get better, but they're not quite sure when. But you said by May the 29th, we should see at least CNG buses. We should see at least those ones by then.
By the anniversary of this government, at least the buses also have come in.
I mean, it's a lot to take in. We did hear from the Lagos State Governor and, of course, Mr. Soludo. Everyone is trying to do what they can, but for many of us, many Nigerians really who are watching these governors dole out palliatives to their people. Some people say that they are doing it because
No, it's not just palliative.
Well, some kind of cushion for the impact.
They need to get more serious about production. This country,
you mean the state governors?
The state governors, even the local councils. Don't forget the philosophy behind creating states. Our country began as 3 regions: Western region, Northern region, Eastern region. Later, we created the Midwestern region, making 4. By the time the unity came in 1966, we had just 4 regions. General Gowon turned into 12 states. Then later, 19 states. Now today, 36 states. And the whole idea is that we are creating those states to bring government closer to the people. We created 774 local councils. 774. Nigeria today is perhaps the most governed state ever in the history of any. When you look at the political geography of many countries, we are the most 774 local councils, and then the people are not getting the benefit of having those councils nearer to them. And today, people still say reference the center, federal government. Look at the revenue allocation. I was looking at the last one.
It's increased published to the states and local governments.
A day ago. Add up what the states collect. Add up what the local councils collect. Is much more than what the federal government actually collects. I look at the figure. I say, wow. So there is much more than what the federal collects.
So the accountability, you think people should start to hold the states more accountable and stop looking at the federal?
They have a responsibility, first of all, to the people.
I want you to get, before they tell us that we've run out of time, I want you to be able to talk about, so I started off by telling you that, we've seen these governors talk about, we're going to reduce the cost of transportation, all kinds of, they're called palliatives, all kinds of palliatives out there for the people. Many people say most of these conversations are coming up right now from them because everyone is scared of another nationwide protest. And we have seen some protests come up around the country. But we've also heard governments say a lot of these protests are politically motivated, to which many people from civil society are wondering, how can you say a thing like that? Look at the reality on ground. What do you make of these pockets of protests going on across the country? And do you believe that they are politically motivated?
Well, some of them, maybe they were spontaneous, but it takes some organization to actually call people to the street to come and demonstrate. I saw the video of the one in Niger, the first one that happened in Minna. It was organized. Some people called out people to protest. The one in Kano was a kind of a sympathy, a copycat kind of demonstration. And you see few people carrying placards, and you see that they show it to camera and so on. Then the one in Ibadan too, it's very clear that some people are behind it, mobilizing people. Yeah, let's go and show that we are hungry and so on and that. Our people deserve the right to be hungry. They said a hungry man is an angry man. They deserve the right to be hungry, but they also deserve the right to know what is happening so that they can try to moderate the hunger. If you know that government is serious, government is trying to do a lot of things to reduce the impact of certain policy measures, then they say, okay, let's give government the benefit of doubt. What government is saying that they give them, Nigerians should give them benefit of doubt, should be patient with them, that there will be light at the end of the tunnel, that things are going to get better, certainly not get worse, and that government is also saying that our people need to change their mindset about certain things. For instance, we can help ourselves too. I remember in 1976 or so, General Olusegun Obasanjo, he was head of state then, he launched what they call Operation Feed the Nation, whereby every Nigerian was asked to do some kind of farming. And we can do it from our homes. If you live in a compound where we have some land or something, you can do some little poultry, you can plant your tomatoes, you can plant your vegetables, and by the time people start doing all this small holding kind of thing, there will be food. You can plant potatoes in your backyard. You don't need to wait for government all the time. Because what has happened is that this country, we've not been doing a lot of production. We've let everything for government or to farmers. So government now is, even the states, I heard someone saying yesterday, trying to encourage urban farming. Anybody who has a compound, who has some land, instead of planting grass, plant something edible. You can plant fruits. You can, instead of just saying, I just want my count of beautiful, you plant flowers. You're not going to eat flowers, but you can eat tomatoes that you produce in your backyard. You can eat your chicken if you have some poultry. Instead of going to buy eggs, you can get your eggs.
I mean, I don't know when that changed. I remember growing up. I may not be that old, but I remember it was a thing. There were things we didn't know we could buy in the market. Like I didn't know you could buy pumpkin leaves in the market because we constantly grew pumpkin leaves in the house.
That kind of spirit ought to come back. Even me, as I'm talking to you, I'm contemplating starting a poultry in my backyard in Lagos. So I believe, why should I be buying chicken outside? Why should I be buying eggs? I can have this thing at home, producing at home.
So let's talk a little bit about, I think our time is far spent, but I wanted to get your thoughts on a few things. The concept of putting a price on goods and commodities across the country. We've seen Mr. Femi Falana go to the court and say this is something, picking a part of our laws and saying this is something that can be done. We've seen many people oppose it, saying, look, we tried it back in the day, it didn't work. It doesn't work. You can't put a price on these goods if you're not manufacturing them. What are your thoughts on that situation?
The problem of our country is that we've had many laws which we don't execute. In the 60s, I remember on the Lagos Island, if you go to a market like Itafaji market, if you want to buy, I'm talking about the 60s now, you were not born then, you want to buy meat, they wait to be weighed. So, okay, give me, maybe it was, I think we were spending pounds at that time, so give me 1 pound meat, it will be weighed. Nobody will cheat you. It will be weighed, say this is 1 pound. You take your meat, you go. If anything you want to buy, even in some markets, even in my town, there are weights. They have weights in the market. They wait. You want to buy something, so they wait for you. You take it, and then you go. But over time, you just allow those things to disappear. Even you want to take a taxi, they put on the meter, so nobody cheats you. But again, you allow those to go. Also, putting prices on things. If you go to a supermarket, it's compulsory. You will see the price. If it's not okay, you leave it. That's the time I went to Spa in Lagos. I wanted to buy a loaf of bread, and I saw one. It was so attractive. A loaf of bread. I said, which one is this? I look at it. I found it was made in France, and the price was about 10 times the price of made in Nigeria bread. What did I do? I dropped the one made in France. I bought the Nigerian one. So they display prices. It's left for people to say, like what happened to Sahad or something in Abuja here, the federal competition something.
FCCPC.
It was FCC.
So the price on the shelf is not the same price at the till.
At the till. So, but that is like some kind of fraud. Only God knows what happened to them. Maybe they did not step up, aligning the price on the shelf with the price in the till. Because people kept adjusting their prices because of what they said. They are dollarizing our economy and things like that. So, but it's there. Supermarkets, they fix prices. It's only the unregulated market outside there where you are not sure. Sometimes they will cheat you. Sometimes you get a bargain and things like that. But they are supposed to put prices on those things so that people can know, should I buy it or should I not buy it? Because people can make their decision. If you think something is too expensive, you leave it. You go for something that's cheaper, an alternative. There must always be an alternative anyway.
But the idea of fixed prices is that the government pegs the price on an item.
Yeah, that is price control.
Yes, so some sort of price control.
It's difficult to enforce it. You have to. That means you are going to deploy another kind of army outside there to be checking every price people put on.
Is it something that you think is it something that you're favorable to?
Counterproductive.
It can be counterproductive.
Yeah. Because you are not the producer of those products. You don't know what the sellers, what the cost of production. So you cannot fix their prices for them. You cannot fix their price for them. So it's better if you let the market forces decide. Whatever price on the sell, put the price on it so people can know the price. If they think it's too expensive, they will leave it. Go for something cheaper.
I mean, I think we need to have another conversation because there isn't enough time for us to talk about a myriad of issues, but I'm sure you would oblige us if we invited you again.
Yeah, I'd be happy to be here again.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Mr. Onanuga, for being with us on Political Paradigm, and good luck with all the work I know you have ahead of you.
Thank you very much.
We have been speaking with the Special Advisor to President Tinubu on Information and Strategy, Mr. Adebayo Onanuga. Please join the conversation online via channelstv.com and leave your comments respectfully, of course. We would love to hear from you. And please join us as we keep asking until the accountability question is answered. I'm Kayla Magwa. See you next time.